Hey everybody, well, welcome back to Taki Space Program with me, Taki117, here to teach you all about Kerbal Space Program while simultaneously exploring the galaxy. So, I've just put up my third communication satellite, and now I have a little bit of time to kill. I got a couple of days to do basically whatever I want. So, we're going to go ahead and do this Explorer 6 contract. All I really have to do is put a probe in orbit with a minimum periapsis of 250 kilometers and transmit some science data. So, seems easy enough. And let's go ahead and point a dish out from Earth. So, I have to be in orbit with a vessel and have a dish targeting the moon. And that's going to be important for later. And I'm going to do a couple of, or rather, I'm going to do this part test contract because I'm going to need parachutes for when I eventually get to Kerbal launches. I don't really feel like doing that one. I don't really feel like doing that one either. The reason I'm not doing these is because they're very Delta V expensive if you don't get them right from the start. So, because I don't want to have to worry about timing right now, I'm just going to skip over these. I think I have plenty of contracts, certainly more than enough to get me through where I'm going. So, I need a satellite with an antenna on it, and specifically a dish. So, this one's going to take a couple of different technologies that I've unlocked, and it's going to combine them all together. So, I'll go ahead and start with this. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some solar panels on here. Just a couple. So that I have power. And also, this kind of gives me an idea of how big my satellite's going to be. I do need a dish. And I think I'm going to use this Communitron DTS M1 part here. And I'm actually going to deploy it just to see what it looks like. Okay, so it's going to look like that. So I'm now going to move it down so it looks better. Why? There we go. So we're going to slide it down to right about there. That looks good, right? So we're going to go ahead and retract it. Now this weighs 0.03 tons. I need something that weighs about that for launch. So here we go. So when we launch, that one is going to handle primary communication, and then once we get to orbit, I'm going to shut it off so that the dish will take over. I'm actually just going to recess it because to me that just looks better. I mean, you don't have to recess things. It serves no purpose. I can still get to it. I do need some batteries though. Let's see. Oh wow, these are massive. Don't need those. Those are not any better. These batteries are huge. Wow. So I think I'm actually going to go with these. I need 4 of them. Then I'm going to put another battery right on top here. Maybe. you know what? I have a dish I can put up there. Oops. There we go. Now I actually need to slide my batteries down. Just a little bit. I don't like... The only reason I'm doing this is I don't really like part clipping. Visible part clipping anyway. So there we go. There's that. It's actually a nice little satellite. But you know what I forgot? I forgot a science experiment. So we're going to go ahead and put a magnetometer beam on here. So I'm going to redo my batteries here. See what that looks like. Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's perfectly fine. Here we go, just adding batteries again. And again, to duplicate the part is Control and left click. And that's just so I don't have to keep searching for it in my part list over there. And there we go. Now, again, this is going to be a semi-permanent satellite, so I'm going to have not that big fuel tank. I'm going to have a small fuel tank and an engine so that we can perform fine maneuvers and, when we're done with it, deorbit it. There we go. I'm actually going to reduce the thrust on this engine because I don't need a whole lot in orbit. Then we need some sort of fairing. So I actually need the wide base because this is a wide satellite. There we go. I'm going to adjust so we have... Oops. There we go. Clamshell deployment. That actually looks pretty good. So there's our payload. And we have to fling this into orbit. So we're going to use our tried and true trusted launcher. But because we are using a trusted launcher, I'm going to go ahead and call this ComSat 2. I'm actually going to open my other ComSat rocket, and I'm going to do something called a subassembly. So I come over here to, can I do subassemblies? Yes. So to this little button right here, this is subassemblies, and I'm going to take the parts of my rocket that I want to save. So this launcher bit, I'm going to drag it over to the subassembly, and I'm going to call it Mercury Redstone launch. And there we go. So now I have this saved as a subassembly. I can go ahead and close this out. I don't want to save it because I didn't make any changes, and load up ComSat 2. Now I can click this and have my entire rocket done in a matter of seconds, instead of having to figure out what parts go where, find them. I can just click the subassembly and there it's done. I do need to adjust my staging, but that's not a big deal. Let's drag that down, and I have quite a bit of delta V. So this should be plenty to get me into orbit, specifically an orbit of minimum of 250 kilometers. This one is probably going to go up to 300 to 500 kilometers, simply because I like giving myself a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and build it. And while this is building, my other contract is going to be counting down to my communication test. So here we go. Warp. And oh shoot. So I still have 9 hours before my test, but I forgot to put a parachute on my rocket to test. So we're gonna go ahead and edit that rocket before we roll it out. We built it, realized, oh no, we forgot our parachute. Our test parachute. So now we got to fix that. Now if we had rolled it out, we would have had to roll it back and then fix it. That would have just been a pain in the butt. But as it is, all I need to do is add in a little structural element here, just like we did for our engine test. I need parachutes. Here's the mini parachute. Stick that right on there. That is a tiny parachute. Go ahead and move it into its own stage. Let's save our edits. And it'll take us some time. Take us another couple of hours. Now, the reason I keep swapping up with the losing charge is because these communication satellites are actually passing through the Earth's shadow, and they don't have enough onboard electric charge to maintain charge throughout their cycle. So it's losing charge. I'm getting the warning saying, hey, I've lost charge, and then as it comes around the planet, it's charging back up again. Now I'm going to go into the tracking station and rename one of my satellites because I forgot to rename it on the launch pad. So this ComSat 1 is actually going to be, pretty sure I can rename it from here. I don't. I thought I could rename it. Ah, yes, I can. Here we go. Need to turn that off. So, in order to rename something from the tracking station, you click the information button, and then you double click the name. I'm just going to name this one ComSat 3 because that's what it is. You can also change it to a ship, lander, station, rover, base, various other things that you would have on various other parts, such as you might have a base on the moon or a station in orbit. But your root part might not necessarily denote that, so you can just change it. So Our rocket should be almost built. See, as we can see, ComSat 2 is already recharged. ComSat 1 might not be orientated correctly, but I'm not worried about it. I don't really need it. I mean, I might come test time, but I should be fine. I need to think of a better name for this, because I already have a ComSat 2, technically. So, go ahead and delete that. I'm going to roll it out. It's going to take us 46 minutes. Something seems to be going on with my communication satellites, especially the ones that have solar panels. But I will worry about that later. So right now, we are rolling out to launch pad. Now, because I'm not worried about what orbit this gets into, I'm going to go ahead and warp to the next morning. Look at that sunrise. And we're going to go ahead and launch it. So, with my communication satellites that are already in orbit losing connection, or losing power like they're also losing connection, and because of that, I might not be able to perform my test in 4.5 hours. So, let's see, I need to test this parachute by staging. So, there we go, staged it, that contract is complete. I need to set one of my dishes targets to the moon, and I'll do that once I get in the space on orbit. And alright, so we're gonna go head to orbit. Now, my thrust to weight ratio is only 1.05. It's a little lower than I like, but it's still enough to get me airborne. If I wanted to, I could have put a solid rocket booster on the side of this rocket, but I didn't really feel the need, because as you can already see, I'm already up to 1.17 thrust to weight ratio, and I'm already gaining plenty of speed. So this rocket is going to make it to orbit just fine. I'm a little worried about my second stage thrust to weight ratio. However, I should be alright. So just doing a little minor staging adjustment there. And whoa, pitch over. Now this rocket seems to be a little more top heavy than the other ones that I've built. That's simply because it's a different probe core, it's got a little more stuff on it, and it's also less aerodynamic. So as you can see, it gets wider and then narrows down to my standard launcher. This could cause a problem. The decreased aerodynamics could cause it to flip unexpectedly when our first stage engine cuts out. So as you can see, I'm still maintaining my small adjustments, but if you'll notice, my first stage is going to burn out a lot sooner than it has been, because you know, I have a heavier payload and I had a lower launch thrust to weight ratio. So still going up. So this is good. There goes our first stage. I'm going to go ahead and move that back. And there goes our rocket. So again, we're having to kind of adjust and fight, and hopefully I can get this rocket turned back around. If not, well, I might just have to scrub it. Come on, baby, come on. We're approaching apoapsis far faster than I would like. Alright, here we go. Managed. Nope, I can't hold it. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and save this satellite. Now, it wants to come down engine first, which is fine. So we're going to go ahead and warp. Because if I can save the satellite, I can recover it. So I'm going to bring up my surface information. Now it has, you know, a suicide burn countdown. It has my time to impact. And my satellite does have a small engine on it. Now, of course, as we drop lower into the atmosphere, I'm going to start slowing down naturally, which is why my suicide burn countdown is actually going up quite a bit. Turn that off for the moment. So I do have a thrust to weight ratio greater than 1. It's almost 1.5 at this point, which is good. So that means I'm in a little bit more control of my descent. I'm going to go ahead and deploy those, because this dish creates a lot of drag, and that's going to help me stay upright. So again, I'm watching my suicide burn countdown so that I'm not wasting fuel unnecessarily. What a suicide burn is it's full throttle as late as possible prior to hitting the ground. The main reason you perform a suicide burn is to save on the amount of delta V you have, or the delta V you expend, so that you come to a stop and cut your engine at the exact moment you touch down. So, as we can see, trying to land this is difficult at best. And I was unable to save my satellite, and it crashed into the ocean. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to redesign my rocket and see if I can't make it better. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. And remember, it's only rocket science.